Dear Venerable Sisters, Dhamma friends, today too we are going to start the day's Dhamma talk. May everyone give the consent with 3 times, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse Bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Vedana chayang bhikkhave king nidana king pacchaya king jatika king phabavati iti. Dear sisters, Dhamma friends, according to or along this particular Sutta known as Maha Thanhasankaya Sutta, the Buddha is taking the chance or opportunity to bring the attention of the aggregated or congregated monks to lead them to more and more deep along the cause and effect relationship or paticca samuppada. And first, so far, we slowly progressing to indicate even for this kind of furniture's views or wrong views regarding the consciousness is because of your craving. Of course, unknown or misperception on the consciousness is more related to the ignorance, but it is working so parallel with or so closely with the desire. So tracing the relationship between these furniture's views and the desire is so far we try to understand according to this discourse, and not stopping at that level. Yesterday we took the chance or we went further. This particular desire also have its own source and its own origin, and born for the particular due to the proximate cause and product of that particular cause. So when the Buddha is before introducing the particular source or the origin, he just asks the what does and where the craving starts from, what is the source of it, what is the origin of. And after asking the question, that means after adverting your mind to the particular point, the Buddha is giving the answer. He says that Vedana or feeling is the source, the origin, or out of Vedana only the desire or hatred can happen. Here the desire has been highlighted, and it's Vedana, the desire is a product of feelings. So whenever someone is diligent or vigilant or aware about his or her feelings, there may be some traces or some weak points where someone can understand. You have a chance either to fertilize or give foods or nutriment for your craving, or to wean it off or reduce the fertilizer and the nutriment for desire, so that when and where you know the origin of the feeling, it's a very good point, and you get certain amount of mastery or controlling power not to fertilize or not to give nutriments for the ongoing desire. So as far as if you do not know the desire is coming out of product of Vedana, you lose the point or you miss the bus. Even if you know theoretically, under your very nose, you must go prepared and you must be ready as and when the feeling arises, how the mechanism and what are the points where you can monitor it, what are the points where you can control it for the well-being of you. So therefore Vedana usually in the conventional sense, the desirable and undesirable feelings are there. So if you are just merely following the pleasure principle, you will never take this painful feeling or unpleasant feeling as a subject matter or as a raw material for you to be aware. So this theory or book knowledge invites you to at least, as a meditator, at least under the light of mindfulness and the diligence, see this pain and pleasure or painful feeling and the painful, pleasurable feeling to consider as two modes of the same. And when you observe it, not only that you are exposing or you are getting so much of information regarding the beginning, the middle and the end of each two modes, but you find the third alternative, that is the grey area, no pain, no pleasure. And whenever it is happening, if you are not well instructed, you will consider this is something wrong. Whenever no pain, no pleasure happen, you interpret it as often lack of mindfulness or lack of precepts, lack of morality, lack of faith or lack of diligence. So you never explore into that because it is not in your normal jargon, day to day. So therefore, not only that you must see the beginning, the middle and the end of the two modes of the feeling, but you must keep the mind open to see whenever it is manifesting, the no pain, no pleasure, and it is the starting point of your spiritual life if you are a person more related to the feeling. Because all the people in our society at large are not specialized or with the trait of feeling as their character type, only part and partial. So for the people or for the section of the people, those who are categorized or reckoned with the feelings, this part is the way out. So they are not only, usually what they happen is they will be carried away or taken for a ride by the pleasurable feeling, or will be miserable in the painful feelings, or they never look at it through the mindfulness and the diligence. But whenever they see, they will see that no pain, no pleasure, and they are often not accepting this as an alternative. They consider it as a failure, as a nihilistic thing, or boring, monotonous. So suppose someone is to explore into this no pain, no pleasure with the neutral idea or neutral feelings, it's a huge area it opens, and for her or him, this is the starting point of vipassana. That your own word, your likings and disliking, your personality, your measuring criterion, everything changes. So therefore, you can look at the same old thing, more greener, more lively, and more invitive, more lucrative, more full of Dhamma. So that is how it happened. So therefore, feeling may become very, very interesting part for the person who is basically driven by feeling. But you can't impose that for all the society at large, because all of them are not like that. So for this kind of people, whenever they understand, whenever they proceed along this feeling, the Buddha is asking that particular feeling, the Vedana, King Nidana, King Pachaya, King Jatika, King Pabhava. That what's its origin of the feeling, what is the source and the proximate cause where from born from and product of, and when it is going there, It is rather philosophical, because beyond feeling, it is not pragmatic. Feeling is the starting point of the phenomena. Up to that, it is behind the screen. So therefore, the part we are going to study now, it's a matter of, or subject matter of the Buddha. But can we deduce it, or through your inferential knowledge or reasoning, with the amount of knowledge and theory in your hand, follow what the Buddha going to say? Is at the beginning appear like a theoretical approach or philosophical approach, but there may be some pragmatic points you may, if you are sharp enough, you can verify yourself. The Buddha says, the touch or the phassa or contact, sometimes been translated as, is the source and the origin or the proximate cause for the Vedana. That means it is an intrinsically utmost necessary thing for the feelings to arise. If there are no contact, it cannot be, you can't qualify it as a feeling. So it is the bare minimum important variable is the contact. So when and where you are going to give the attention to the contact, definitely you will claim, I don't know, I can't study the contact because I come to know only after the contact. So therefore, how can? So therefore, they are the teaching of the Buddha or the presentation, not only the pragmatic value, it has its theoretical value, and that area is usually not much common and popular, even among the meditators, and therefore they appear almost unexplored or unattended for. But Sutta, like Maha Sutta, and some places, it's a very, very, how can we say, the behind the screen, what is happening is being explained. And now in the neural science and the brain knowledge, they comes to know what is happening behind your brain whenever such a contact is happening. The coding and decoding process is almost parallel with what the Buddha is telling. We do not know whether the scientists are interpreting the same after copying the Buddha. I think if it is so, it will take time for that to happen. But anyway, this terminology and experiment and research giving kind of a light for what the Buddha is telling. He says that whenever you take contact, usually you consider it as a one unit, it's a one entity, but within the mental factor called contact, there is two lobes, the physical part and the mental part. Or in order to have a pragmatic, practical contact, there should have a friction, there should have a materiality, the grossness, and it has to come. And the second thing is nomenclature. There should have a labeling, there should have a delimiting with the other aspects, and that particular name must be attributed. Then only we recognize this as a feeling. So, for example, when you are in a dark room, if you touch something, before make it sure, you have to put on the light and see that particular thing. Otherwise, your interpretation, your experience is only 50%, because you have not confirmed it with your eye. So that the touch is there, but you don't know what is it. Therefore, it indicates the touch can give a suggestion, but it must be seconded by looking or some or the other. The other example is, in a dream you look, you see, but after getting up there is no touch. So dream is not being accepted as a reality, it's a mystic. So therefore, a touch, a contact to come into being, there should have a proposal and the seconding, and reckoning materiality by the naming must be fulfilled by the materiality. So that part is very, very interesting. If you start even with the theory, so what you touch or what you claimed as what you touch is rather your past memory or your past reckoning or past your perception. So therefore, if you just touch and not look at it and not consult your past memory, the touch itself can't recognize as a full-fledged touch. So that part is very interesting. Whenever you are solving the problem, theoretical may be, for example, during the time of the Buddha, there was a organized mishap in the society because the Buddha and the disciples going to receive a lot of praise, gain, fame and everything. So all the other monastics, they found they are not much popular. So ultimately they started a kind of a social movement and started to blame while the Buddha and the monks are going on Pindapata, or that alms rounds. So it appears a very dirty thing, not the society at large, but there's a small group. So ultimately Venerable Ananda was full upset, and he came to the Buddha and so told, point blank, Bhante, shall we shift to another town? Then Buddha told, there's no reason as such to shift. And the second time, third time, and they are Venerable the question, Ananda, what is the problem? He told, we are very embarrassed, Bhante, because when we are going on Pindapata, we are depending on the people. Instead, there are some people blaming us with the harsh language. So it is very difficult to face, but not only for us, even for you. So we feel very, very embarrassed. Then the Buddha says, okay, and when now we are going to go to another town, if that people also going to blame, what are you going to do? So therefore, I will tell you, wait here for 7 days. If it is the general consent of the people, we will come to know. If it's a campaign, within 7 days it will disappear. And after giving this administrative instruction, the Buddha uttered kind of a idea. It is not to Venerable Ananda, not to the people blaming, and not to hint someone. The Buddha explained how this contact is going to happen. Game aranye sukha dukkha puttho nevattana nocha parandaheya pusanti passa upadim paticca nirupadim kena pusayum passa. You may be living in a forest, or maybe in a civilized society, in the village or a town. Game aranye, and sometimes pleasurable things are happening. Sometimes it's unpleasurable things are happening. Often people attribute that pleasurable and unpleasurable thing to oneself and curse, self-curse. Or they attribute outside and blame others. So that is because you don't know the mechanism of contact. Pusanti passa upadim paticca. Things come and contact you according to your likings and dislikings, according to your value system. So therefore, if you know your value system, they come and contact or not is not predetermined. You can change it or you can study it. Nirupadin kena pusayum passa. If you have no stereotype value system or biased value system or narrow value system, if you have the openness, the contacts, things contact in you different from the others. You are independent of the impact. the impingement, you can take it as a pleasurable or painful. So therefore, things contact you according to your value system. So therefore, don't blame outside or inside. Just see, whenever something is contact, it is because of your likings and disliking, or your perception, or your value system, or your volitional activities. So normal people think what you contact, you are going to feel. What you contact leading to your volitional activities. What you contact leading to your perception. But there's another reciprocal way. Things contact you due to your perception, due to your volitional activities, due to your feelings. So therefore, don't rush to a decision to blame others or you. Just see why it is same thing contact you indifferently than the other person. Or otherwise, if something is repetitively giving a contact, just see how is the first impression, face value, and when it is contacting the second time, third time, fourth time, it's ever evolving, ever changing. So if you know that point, if you are arriving at a decision at the face value, that is not applicable at the middle area, not applicable at the last area. So let that contact happen, be patient. Let it happen again and again. See how the contacts metamorphosize, change, evolve by the repetitive application. So whenever you arrive at a decision, from there onward the process collapses and you get stuck, and ultimately you have to prove it. It becomes your commitment. So you are committing to something changing, something volatile. So why don't you observe it a little bit? So this is a kind of a very, very revolutionary thing, even though you are not the first founder of it. Maybe you are just listening to Buddha and try to employ it when and where possible. Any impression about a person or any climate, food, your moods, if you are not assuming it, if you are not going to collapse it, if you are not going to commit with it by a decision, and if it is happening again and again, just open with the open-minded, and you can see the change. And that change is not of yours, this is a nature. But if you are going to see this as permanent, it is not changing. That particular person is ever bad. This particular person is ever good. This sense is very good, pleasurable. This is no pleasure. That is because you are the person freezing it, collapsing it, and then onward you are the person who is suffering, but the contact point is ever changing. So this is what very important in Vipassana. Vipassana, we take primary object. And maybe while you are doing the primary object, feeling also can happen. Or sound, or thought, or emotional thing can happen. If you are patient enough through your mindfulness, let that pain happen again and again. Let that sound happen again and again. Let that daydreaming, fantasizing, or emotional things, or anything, see again and again. If you have the permanent notion, you report, it is equally the same. But if you are very much familiar with your primary object, how fast it is changing from the gross to the subtle, subtle to the subtlest, or sometimes maybe other way around, the changing nature, when you more and more you apply, you find you are often depending and living on your daydreaming rather than having a temporal the time series giving a direct touch with the object of creating the contact. If you are patient enough to see, very soon it is changing to otherwise. So therefore, if you have the open-minded, even someone come and blame you, even someone try to disturb you, if you are, as far as you are not reacting, that very particular person disturbing you will get disturbed, not you. Because you are ready to see the next moment. And if someone is blaming you, and if you are not expressing yourself or assuming yourself, that blame return back to him. During the time of the Buddha, he was a lot of other Brahmins, other high caste people, telling that Buddha is not paying in respect to the caste. Even the elderly people come, he is not cordial, and he is not appreciating the pressure principle. So therefore, they were very unhappy. One day, such an elderly person came to Buddha, and obviously Buddha never go to him forward, welcome him. But anyway, he came and told, but he was a very elderly person with the grey hair. The Buddha was at that time at his prime age, the medium age. And then he told, I heard so far that you are not respecting the elders. Today I experience it. How come that? You have to welcome the senior fellow. I am such a reputed person. And then the Buddha allow him to blame as much as possible. And then the Buddha asked, is it finished? Then again he got agitated. Again second dose came. And after that, have you finished? So after that he says, yes. Then the Buddha asked, now you came here. Your idea has been presented. May I ask you a question? Then ultimately he agreed. Then he says, you and your wife going to visit a relative, and you go with some sweets or some kind of a present. And when you go there, you find that your relative is not at home. Door is closed. So what are you going to do? You don't know when he's going to come. House is empty. Are you going to keep the presents in the doorstep and come back? Or do you bring your presents back at home? They need to, who is going to keep the presents in the doorstep? Because that, I don't know who is going to use it. So what I do is, I will bring it and share with my wife back at home. Then Buddha told, when you come and try to give something, at my home also no one is there. All the presents now you have to take back and eat with your wife. So simple. If you are reacting, you are recharging him, and ultimately he will kill you. But instead let him do his vomiting, catharsis, blaming, and behave like a dumb person. And even if you can look how arrogant he is, behave like a blind person, and ultimately you are returning exactly the same to him. So it depends on your value system. Your arrogance, so to say, your conceit, never allow you to just be aware choicelessly, or be aware in an evenly suspended attention. So it is not his mistake, that is your arrogance is the one you get committed. And your desire for your reputation and kind of thing, or your egotistic idea, never allow you to be, just be. Instead, you are reacting. So moment you react, the conflagration starts. So instead, if you can be patient, you can see he comes with so much of fully charged blame, but as far as you are not reacting, you can see ultimately he becomes exhausted, and his arrogance undergoing changes, evolution, metamorphosis happening. So for you that not withdraw him and look around here and there, you have to just observe him. You have to see how the changes happen, but without a reaction. So that is the way you have to understand. If you are a mature person, or developed mind with the maturity and the mindfulness and the vipassana, so you let that situation happen more and more. So The Mahasi system developed a kind of a very skillful method, not only applicable to this point. He says whatever the decision you are going to take is blaming or is praising. All the kind of thing, whenever that impact you, impress you, get their mode, features, character, and the indicators. How do you understand at the beginning of the blame, middle of the blame, at the end of the blame? You can see it is mode, it's a features, its characteristics, and the indicators are changing. At the beginning you find very arrogant and don't give any chance for you to talk, and features you can understand. Of course it is a bad thing, but if you can see these modes, features and the characters and the indicators, how quickly it is changing within this single drama, something like when you're observing the breath, if you can see its individual characteristics like shape, the mode, its natural characteristic, if you see more detail, more sharp, so much so it is changing. If you look at it at a distance and without much of attention, the breath appear equal. Breath appear very steady. But more and more you see its nature, or rather shapes and the manner and the natural characteristics, you can see it is fast changing because you observe it so close, so immediate, you can see changes. Exactly the way, whatever going to contact, maybe a sound, maybe a thought, maybe a pain, maybe your primary object, don't frame them, don't fix it. That is what you call permanent notion. Instead, go prepared, it is ever changing. So how about the next mode? How about the next feature? How about the next character? How about the next indicator? It's fast changing. So when it is changing, you will be more withdraw to decide, to fix it, to freeze it. And changing nature you may understand. So all the contact you received so far, even now, it is because you have not seen it very closely and you have frozen them. You have fixed it with your permanent notion. Then onward it becomes your baby. Moment you see, ready to see the next moment or next feature, next character, next mode, so you can see it is a changing thing. You are not responsible about that because it is happening by its own accord or its cause and effect relationship. So therefore anything you contact so far is nothing but due to your permanent notion. Things are not permanent, things are not monotonous, things are not boring, unless otherwise your mind is bored. Unless otherwise your mind is bored. So therefore if you are ready to see the nature of the Dhamma or the things as they are not by itself monotonous. They are ever changing, but you have some idea, this is not good for my desire, not good for my conceit, not good for my egotistic idea. Though these are the things, you are going to fix it. That is because you are never ready to be observe them very closely, very vigilantly, very diligently, very mindfully. So where Buddha says, the people may blame, but if you are ready to accept it, that is because your likings and disliking, your status of mind. So if you are not assuming, the blames will come from this year and go from that year. No change is going to happen. So therefore this contact, so you have to understand with respect to your permanent notion or impermanent notion. So therefore, if you go prepared means you are ready for impermanent notion. If you are not prepared means you are arrogant. You have a preconceived ideas, preconceived, premeditated ideas, you know he is bad. Whatever he is telling is bad. So under such circumstances, it becomes bad. And whatever may be, you are the sufferer. So therefore, even the person is bad, even the person is really to irritate you, if you look at him just like a blind person, if you listen to him like a deaf, you can see the changing mode. So therefore, this contact is very interesting. As you progress in the meditation, your impression to the things happens also evolve. That is because, if I am to take the example of the breath, at the early part of your meditation, you just see only the gross in-breath and gross out-breath, the tip of the iceberg, very, very tip. But more and more familiarization, you are being asked, trained to see the beginning of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath. More than the tip, the beginning is more volatile, end is more volatile. When your sensitivity is increasing, you are going to see still subtle beginning of the in-breath, and it is dissolving into the subtlety. Towards the tail end of this bell-shaped curve, it is more impermanent. And if you go prepared, you can see, whenever you see already prepared gross in-breath, it appears like permanent. But if you are ready to see repetitively arising in-breath, together with the beginning and the end, more and more you go to the tail end of this bell-shaped curve. Tail ends are very, very volatile. So therefore, observing the breath as and when it arises, it is called diligent. Only if you can see already gross breath, you are negligent. You are delayed. So whole theory, whole instruction is, let it happen again and again. Next time when it is arising, be prepared to see the volatile starting point, or reconfirm it when it is dissolving into the nothingness or to the wearing and tearing part. These two are more volatile. So, but it is threatening. It is threatening to your ego. It is threatening to your conceit. It is threatening to your desire. So therefore you become allergic, fearful, uncertain. In order to keep the object view it and see the beginning and the end, imagine the same thing if you can do with the anger. You are already complaining about reconfirmed anger or seconded anger. Let that anger happen. If you are an angry kind of a person, it is, you get free of charge. You become often get angry. So see the beginning of the anger. When it is there, hardly you can label the terminology or reckoning as anger, because it is still developing. And after, if you are lucky enough, without committing, without fighting with others, if you have to see the disappearance of the anger, again is it disappearing to nothingness without any involvement. Only you get committed, you will get caught up when you are going to decide, assume, or reckon it simply by labeling, simply by telling a name. Moment you give a name, they become fixed or become collapsed. And then you start a relationship with your imagination, with your appointment, but the anger itself is changing. Exactly the desire, exactly the sleepiness, or that is to say the monotony. And if you are to see, you can see contact is not a chunk, it is not a entity, it is evolving. So you have to make it open. When you are opening, you can see often people are talking about already arisen objects. They fail to understand what is the process of arising, and not only that, they fail to understand how it is dissolving. When it is dissolving and arising, they are still not much with the fixed mode or features, characters and indicators. So they are, you don't accept them as valuable information, you only accept only the tip of the iceberg. So therefore, tip of the iceberg is well and good to start with. You have to definitely start with that. Otherwise, you will be imagining. So that indicates pragmatic thing. It is something solid, concrete. And don't stop at that level. When you go to the two tails of the bell-shaped curve, more and more you go down there, not only you see the arising object and if the contact is uncertain, impermanent, your mind itself, the observing mind itself become allergic. It's become vomitish. It become not solid. So that is the part you are not so much developed. That is why we call the beginner. But more and more you go there, you can see right from the beginning, if you are to observe any contact, your mind, your starting point itself is undergoing some kind of changes. So only the middle part of that phenomena you can claim egotistic, conceited, and the desire. The beginning and the end of the observer itself in that particular episode, it is not fixed. So that volatile area is the part the Buddha is using highly in explaining cause and effect relationship rather than the solidified middle area. So solidified middle area is the worldly knowledge. That is already decided, already second hand. It is already corrupted. It is at a very destined the path. But both the ends is very volatile, completely open, completely depend on impermanent notion. So impermanent notion, you must have before, or it must be your attitude, your outlook at the outset, you must have it. But that is very difficult to predict. Because you are a person, we are often carried away by the pleasure principle. So beginning, you are not prepared it, or you are not diligent enough. At the end, you are already desperate, already committed, or fighting with others, or love and hug with others. Ultimately, you have no. So therefore, starting with the neutral object like in-breath and out-breath, never stop at that level. While you keep the attention with the in-breath and out-breath, feelings are happening, contacts are happening. But they are very keen whether it's a mind-made or hallucination or something realistic. If it is realistic, while you keep the attention with your primary object, you can pay attention to that. That because your mind is armed with mindfulness, your mind is ready with that impermanent notion, then you can see feelings are rising and disappearing, and some contacts, sounds, everything happen. So you are not armed with your primary object, so therefore let loose your boundary. Let it diversify, go further and further. When you go there, you take your primary object as the pivotal point or benchmark, but not confining into that. Let it happen. That is how the Kayanupassana is advancing into the Vedananupassana, or contemplation on the feelings, and advancing into the Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana. Otherwise you will be pegged, you will be pinned onto the Kayanupassana. So therefore, when it is happening, all mishaps, so-called, while you are observing the breath at the tip of your nose, you may feel pain in your left knee, or maybe feeling some kind of other unwelcome feelings. So if it is distracting and if your mindfulness is not up to the mark, of course it will be a bad thing. It will be a distraction per se. But if you are mindful, it's a raw material for you to see, am I going to confirm this as a bad contact or good contact, or try to see its flux, changing mode, or changing features, changing characters, changing indicators. The day you see it, it's exactly where the Buddha is looking at it. So you become Buddha. As far as you can observe the phenomena of the episode without attributing a name, without attributing it, fixing it or collapsing it, then you can see they are ever preaching you the Dhamma, but your idiotness, but your confirming nature, your labeling nature, your permanent notion is cutting you and fix you. More and more you fix, so much so the frustration, so much so the tension arises, that therefore you have a love for this frustration, you have a love for this tension or masochist or this sadistic nature, that is what torturing you, not the object by itself. Object is ever changing. So therefore, some person of course literal in writing, he says, some people complain, sounds are disturbing me. But he or she do not know he is the person disturbing the sound, fixing it, collapsing it. Then it is a disturbance. If the sounds come and go, if he is a meditator, if he is meditating with this impermanent notion, it may be a sound, it may be a pain, it may be a thought. They are arising to pass away. Whatever you like, according to your value judgment, according to your likings and disliking, according to your personality, you take something and fix it. Then tormentation, then torturing happens. So you are the one selecting. So therefore, whenever come into your screen of contact is indicating who you are. What you see, that you are. Where you go, there you are. That is, therefore, if you are sharp enough, instead of complaining and instead of trying to get rid of, by contact, you are ever in the experimenting to understand who am I or what am I. Of course, you are taking the primary object as the pivotal point. All the other combinations indicate what is your karmic brought forward and what is your likings and disliking, what is your habit and what is your volitional approach. So don't arrive at a decision because so much of information. So when it happens, you can see the contact is not an entity by itself. It's a process. A lot of episodes are there. If you have the thin slicing of time and if you keep it open, you will not take the contact taken into grant, but you analyze it. To analyze it, you must have already steadfast mindfulness and kind of a approach or preparedness, and keep the contact doors open. Don't try to discriminate, don't try to filter it. When moment you are going to filter, your interpretation is completely biased. So that is what you call the full-fledged life, full catastrophic living. Let everything happen armed with this. And this contact, that very contact, the Buddha says, they also have their own source. And it also has origin and born out of and product of what? That is of your six senses. Without the sensitivity of your six senses, your nails, your teeth won't get contact because they have the sensitivity. Only the sensitive part is going to give. So sensitive part sometimes appear like an endowment, appear like your vigilance, and you are full with your very sensitive eye, very, very sensitive ear, very, very sensitive nose, tongue, body, and alertness in your mind. But more alert, more sensitive means they are attracting so much of contacts. Not that sensitivity is bad, but it has its own mistakes. More sensitive, more you get disturbed, unless otherwise you have a developed mind. So therefore, six senses are the root cause of your suffering, unless otherwise you restrain them. So therefore, passa or contact is due to these six senses. Each and every base element, so to say, eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, they are working in exactly the same way. But when one is working, all the things are being suppressed. When eye is working or eye sensitivity is working, your sensitivity of the ear, sensitivity of the nose, tongue, body, mind is null and void. So you have to be very sharp to understand if all the six are going to make the full gamut of your suffering, when I is going to make the upper hand by suppressing all the five, you are already enlightened 5/6 of your capacity. But all the full dosage of defilements coming from the base element which is intact now, which is working. So therefore, if you are to ask the question, now I am a seer, I can see a beautiful picture. And through that, so much of pleasure principle and daydreaming, fantasizing, storytelling, fabrications happen. So you find it so difficult how to be indifferent with that, how to be patient without being carried away by the likings and disliking. So you may find it is unachievable task because you love that photos, because you love that picture. So you know it. But theoretically you can understand so much you engrossed with this seeing, that means your ear for the moment create any kind of defilement. It is enlightened. Your nose, no any influx of defilements. No tongue, nor the body, nor the mind. So therefore you know this is the source of influx or sort of defilements. But you have to understand, by becoming so engrossed with that, all the other five is not there. And if you know this is the culprit and this is the source of defilements, so it's a great discovery, it's a great diagnosis. The Buddha says, I can't do it for you, because immediately you become a seer, next moment you become a hearer or smelling person, taster, touch, all the kind of. So therefore, how much you should be thin slicing of time or your mindfulness follow this track, the change of the base element. So in a day-to-day activities, especially if you are not a person with mindfulness, imagine how it is changing so quickly, so swiftly, and like a monkey mind, jumping from one to the other. So when you come and reduce your attention to one particular base element like Kayanupassana or bodily tactile sensation, and know that mind is with the in-breath and out-breath or the body posture, so you are so much you can be happy, because at that given moment, no defilement from the other sense dose or base element. And if you know that your attention is with a neutral object, it's also not carried away by the desire or undesirable situation, the boredom is the sign. The boredom indicates now you are with the neutral object. And by occupying your mind to this primary bored or maybe neutral object, other senses are closed. So if you can keep this, even though it is bored, if you can keep this object consecutively to happen, or if your mindfulness is steadfast, the boredom indicates how secure you are. You are not carried away by others, and what you are in face-to-face also neutral. It's an appointed object. This is your pivotal point. This is your primary object. This is your body part. And knowing that, when you go there, just think, when that particular object also becoming soft, your load of defilements becomes soft. When it becomes subtle, less, your load of defilements will become less. And imagine that is also unperceivable. That moment you can say, Vivituru, Nirmala, free of defilements and pure. And because you know, by taking the primary object, you already cut off all the other five senses or five base elements. And that now the particular object that you have observed is also disappearing. or becoming subtler and subtler, see the amount of boredom, see the amount of monotony, see the amount of uncertainty, see the amount of fearfulness arising, and if you can be aware, the Buddha says, this boredom, this monotony is a source for your gladness. You must be happy because this is not the desire. Desire is what you want to do away with. Now instead of the desire, the boredom happens. That is also due to your misunderstanding. This is of your misrepresentation. So the moment you try to understand this, the boredom as a sign, that particular object also creating no much of defilement, and the day you're going to appreciate it, you can say this is Nirodha, the disappearing part of that particular object that you have selected. It is not a disappearance of one base element, it's a disappearance of all the 6 base elements, Salayatana Nirodha. So you can see day by day, you can go to the base. Not the totality of complete Salayatana Nirodha. This is the gradual process. But the main culprit is the boredom. The main culprit is the monotony or nibbida. The Buddha says, at the early part of Salayatana Nirodha, the boredom happier in the hate-based mind. More and more you practice and more you go prepared, if you can understand with the understanding base, not the hate base but the wisdom base, then you are no more the same person reacting or reflecting upon this. So you are more towards understanding the truth of suffering, because so far you try to avoid it. Now you embrace it, because this boredom indicates your meditation is penetrating. Your mindfulness is very active. And not it happened overnight 100%. Little by when it is happening, this is what does it call, that salayatana. First you reduce purposefully by agreeing with that particular primary object to one. And that also by repetitive application, calming down. When you calming down, if you can monitor it without become smart or without become agitating, monitoring means put it into autopiloting, is naturally reducing. And when it is reducing, to not to disturb it by your pet ideas and theoretical understanding and reckoning them, recognizing them, putting label them, this is natural process. But your understanding, your theory and your conceit completely work negatively. So you have to withdraw knowingly and then let it happen. It's going. I would like to attribute the boil down situation of your breath. If the breath is your primary object, ultimately you end up with a vibration maybe some bubbles. Some people listen kind of a sound of silence. Some people feel lightness. Some people feel lightness or light. Whatever it may be, it is the primordial source. It is the beginning of everything. I feel worth calling that is as Namarupa. Keep the Namarupa as Namarupa. Don't let them manifest. Don't let them become a Rupa. That's a visual thing. Or Saddha-rupa, that means hearing sound waves. Gandha-rupa, smell. Or Rasa-rupa, taste. Or Pottabha-rupa, or Dhamma. And if you can keep the Namarupa as face-to-face with, you are utterly bored. You are utterly monotonous. It is like instead of looking at the waves at the sea shore, you are looking at the horizon. It's from morning to evening the same. But that is the most profound, deepest point of your sea. But you see, your attraction is more to the waves. It is coming and breaking, very dramatic. But it is the most shallow place. So if you can look at it, sometimes after the primary object become boiled down to this mere vibration or mere lightness or light or energy or sound. And if you can remember the past and the path and the history, how from this attributable sound, light, smell, taste, everything now boil down to this one. And if you can keep vigilant and diligent with this Namarupa, that moment you are living 100% totality, not partial, not paralyzed. Because that is the root cause, that is the source, that is the potential, that's a possibility. And whenever you are with the possibility, you are omnipotent, you are omnipresent, anything can happen out of that. But your crafty mind never happy with this basic source. Something like a potter is never happy with the lump of clay. He wanted to make something and make a commodity. He wants to kill it and fix it. Then he become a potter. The clay become a pot. So if you can keep the clay as clay, appear like you are not creative, you are not productive, you are not with any kind of aesthetic idea. So all these things, definitely Buddha says, coming out of your culture. This is coming out of your background. This is coming out of your upbringing. But keeping this as the way you were up to the age 6, the clay is clay and not committed. It is not a pot. So it is not kiln. So anything you can change it to other thing, even if you make it. So likewise, keeping this Namarupa as Namarupa, the creative world, the productive world, or world of this Sankhara, always considered as nihilistic or not creative. So therefore you immediately commit into that. Moment you commit, you get committed. So instead of going into the Salayatana and understand this as a Rupa through eye, or as a sound through your ear, the quantum physics says that when everything reduces, it is just energy. That energy can become light, or sound, or smell, taste, touch, or the thought, depending on your consciousness, depending on your creativity. That energy is the source of, it's a source, it's a potential. Keeping that and not committing is the way you get distance from it. Moment you commit, you are answerable. So therefore, whenever the Salayatana become Nirodha or come up to the basic boiling pot, you are not without any kind of a feeling, but you hardly can call it as a feeling. You are not without a perception. The Buddha says that perception is not worth calling normal perception. You are not without a volition. It is not worth calling volition. And you are not without the consciousness. That consciousness is unmanifested. That consciousness is not founded upon that. So this is what your utmost training or utmost of your practice. But many would say, how difficult for this Salayatana or manifested form to bring it back to the Namarupa level. Because they would say, I have practiced Bhante 17 years, 20 years, but still my mind is so much agitated with the sounds and the thoughts and the pain, and I can't see breath in, breath and out breath. I can't see the beginning, the middle and the end and all the kind of thing. But theoretically, or in the sense pragmatically, inferentially you can say, the gross in-breath, when it is reduced to the cessation part of the out-breath or in-breath, you are definitely go for a split second to the Namarupa level, then only the out-breath start. Before the out-breath start and soon after the end of the in-breath, if you sharp enough, if you are mindful enough, if you are vigilant enough, if you are diligent enough, it is a birthright. It is not a result of meditation, but your mind is ignoring it. That is what you call ignorance, foolishness, idiot, darkness, the misconception, or the lack of knowledge. So therefore, day by day, you are aiming at and you never happy with this lump of clay. You are always happy that it has been made into some clay item or commodity, or kiln it and fix it. So that is the crime. For that only you are paying. That is what you call frustration. That is what you call tension. But each and every moment you are returning back to this Nama-Rupa level. And if you can understand, not keeping the Nama-Rupa as Nama-Rupa, definitely it will change into the other thing. It is happening due to cause and effect relationship, not due to you. It is not due to you. If you are not observing, you doubt, am I the person who made this clay lump into a pot? The Buddha says, if you see really the evolution, you can see when that happened, whether it will become a pot or whether it's a lump of clay. As far as you are not claiming it as me, or if you disclaim it, if you disavow, whether you are in the lump of clay or in the pot level, no problem, because you are unassuming. You are not reacting. You are not taking the responsibility of this creativity. You know the cause and effect relationship is happening. You have the status of neutral observer. Don't commit. Moment you commit, you get the result, a package of frustration, a package of tension. And ultimately you try to attribute that package to me or to other person or both, or you take a fictitious views. It is something happening mystic, I don't know what is happening. That is nothing but your lack of observation, lack of vigilance, lack of diligence, or lack of your thin slicing of time. Or psychologically, they say your phobia to see this transitional place, or see the most least defiled form, because you love tension, you love frustration, and ultimately make fuss, make complaint, but without second person or second agent or second thing, daily or each and every moment you are going through, but you have the blind spot. You can't see it because you are being adjusted to see vibrations, the dramatic things. So therefore, more and more you go to the potential, it is a birthright. Nothing, no one in this audience not gone through it, but no one is ready to claim. They say, no, my mind is always divided. My mind is always with frustration. My mind is with always tension. So therefore I am bound to get guilt, frustration, because they only see the tip of the iceberg. They've never sharp enough, never gradual enough, never used your past memories to go deep and deep into this unknown or to the black hole. When you go there, you feel that everything will be finished or sucked and absorbed. So therefore you love yourself, you love your conceit, you love your liking and disliking. So when it is you close to this blind spot or the black hole, it appears like a devastation. It appears like a destruction. So therefore, not that you are not going, but you have a resistance, or we call phobia, or kind of allergic reaction. So allergic reaction is the one that appears like the boredom. It is the one representing as the monotony. It is the one representing as this doubt, uncertainty, fearfulness. So instead of finding the way, answer within, you expect private armies to get rid of fear. And in order to get rid of doubts, you go for counselors. And you think the external, the materiality will answer you. More and more you go there, you are deprived of going to the depth. So therefore imagine when you are not mindful. Upanishad Sayadaw used to say, imagine when the boyfriend is in front of a girlfriend, and what kind of a proliferation, what kind of the amount of defilements arising, and you are waiting to meet your girlfriend, waiting to see your boyfriend, and what much of lucrative defilements you are developing. Instead, if you come and sit, and when you go to this dark hole, these lovers will say, you have no any aesthetic feeling. You people are kind of the ice cubes. You have no feelings. So therefore, when you go tomorrow home, everyone will look at from top to the bottom. See what kind of people, no dinner, no news, no love-making, and ultimately they come and try to make up one-upmanship. We are meditators, we have precepts and we have devotion. You bloody shit, you don't have meditation, you don't have precepts and you don't have the faith, and you are the loser. They are the majority. So therefore, you are not believing upon your own experience. Even that you are going to measure your experience with that bloody fool, same old yardstick. That means you are not ready for the meditation. So that preparedness, that correct approach or adverting of your mind, how precious, how religious or how spiritual, but it is coincidence. It's electric. Only thing we can do is providing the necessary causative factors and invite that childlike approach, not childish, childlike approach that is called innocence, and very easily we can say we are born with that innocence. It is nothing to teach. Only thing is you can't do away with or de-learn what you have gathered on the way. You can't decondition it because you love it. But deconditioning and de-learning is not impossible because it is a halfway visitor. So you love it at the cost of your innocence. So more and more you practice, you become so humble, down to earth, innocence and childlike, and it is possible only within that like-minded people. Otherwise, you find that you are out of the place. So therefore, you must understand within this world, with this multifarious world, there are some places with good vibrations. There are some people with this correct view, and at any cost, you must create that. At the beginning, you must have these conducive conditions, but later, whenever you become very mature, when your mind is become very meditated or improved, wherever you go, your vibration is with you. Even others can feel. You are with good vibration. So this is the chain. At the beginning, you have to seek. You have to have the feeler to see good vibration and be there, just like a suckling baby. And once you develop it, wherever you go, you are like a turtle. Your shell is right round. So till that, behave like a dumb person, behave like a blind person, behave like an idiot or like a dead. That is because not that you are nihilistic and destructive. This is the only way available. So when you go from Nama-rupa or this flux, how that Nama-rupa is reciprocal or interdependent with the consciousness, that is the crux of the issue. That's what the Buddha wanted to explain, and it is definitely theoretical. Very difficult someone to witness it, unless otherwise you are really, really endowed with these your qualities and your proper approach. But anyway, it is for the understanding of the cause and effect relationship or Paticcasamuppada, that is the crux of the teaching. Even in the Maha Nidana Sutta, the Buddha is explaining, and the Sutta we discussed in the Sydney. Also, the Buddha is explaining. Here also he is giving not much of a highlighting. So therefore, I am not going to deal it today. I would reserve it for the tomorrow. Even then, I would say, I have not completed the complete Sutta, because it's a very long one. But by handling so much, we have dealt the main crux or main theme of, but even then I have to take time tomorrow. So leaving the rest of the thing for tomorrow's talk, I would like to sum up the talk today in this place. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know how the other members, others, listeners are going to do. Is it okay? No, without the peak, picture is not complete. If you are deciding, if you are going with the premeditated idea, if you go with assuming, then you are committing. The art is, even if it is fixed, even if it appears a peak with respect to the tail, if you just mere neutral observer, full of mindfulness, that cannot create anything unless you go and grab holding. So you must have the distance. No premeditated idea, you are an observer. Then you can see defilements will come and bombard. You are not holding, you are holding it. So they will go. The moment you hold it, you get committed. So therefore you have full rights if you go prepared.